Hi guys. So today's lesson is going to be for Thursday, May 14th. You have a bell ringer today. It's actually your last bell ringer for the year. You should have a total of 4 bell ringers for the month of May. After you answer today's bell ringer question, make it a good one since it's your last one. You can turn them in, and then we're done. We're done. Good job. You made it through all of the bell ringers, so nice job. All right, so after you answer the bell ringer question, we're going to be working on slides 52 through 54. We have 2 writing slides and 1 picture slide. So let's recap some of the stuff that we've talked about last. The last things that we talked about were economic problems that the former Soviet Union and all of the satellite states are facing right now. A lot of the satellite states are working to gain their independence, leave the Russian Federation because there is really no Soviet Union for them to control anymore. And, it's going to be really difficult because you can fight for independence all you want, but if you don't have a plan after that, then you're going to really struggle. And that's what we're seeing. A lot of these newly established countries are going to struggle with their economies because they know that communism doesn't work, but they don't necessarily know how to have a successful capitalist economic system. So, because they never had it before. Or it's been years since they've had it because they were taken over by the Soviet Union. So that's been decades. So these countries, newly established independent countries, are going to struggle a lot. We're going to have some ethnic problems, like there's going to be targeting of certain ethnic groups and religions that we're going to talk about today and really towards the end of the unit. So really, like when these territories were under the control of the Soviet Union, you had no control over who was there because you weren't in charge of your own territory. The Soviet Union had control of that. So now that they are free and independent to an extent, or working towards their freedom and their independence, they're starting to realize that they have a say in who's in their country and who's not in their country. And so it's kind of like, okay, well, we want to have a clean slate on our country and make laws and form our economic system and have a government, but we also don't want this group of people here. We also don't want this group of people here, right? So, there's going to be a lot of ethnic tension for sure, and some forced removing of these ethnic groups in awful, awful ways. So we're going to talk about that really towards the end of the unit. We're really going to focus on economic problems. Nationalism is going to grow and increase in these areas, and religion. So we have economic problems, nationalistic feelings, and then religious tension as well. So that's going to be like the main focus for the rest of the unit, I guess. So, okay, so we're doing slides 52 to 54. It is Europe after communism. No vocab words, just a tiny little baby slide. So the collapse of the Iron Curtain brought new opportunities and new challenges to Europe. Now what? It's kind of like, okay, great, this is done and that's over with, but we don't know what to do. We don't know how to govern ourselves. Like, what does that look like? The end of communism brought much economic change as well as new threats to peace. In Eastern Europe, communist governments had maintained strict control over their people. We know this because it was the Soviet Union and a dictatorship. In Yugoslavia, this control had helped suppress tensions between the many different ethnic and religious groups that had lived in threat of the country's 6 republics. But as communism slowly collapsed, the tensions began to come to the surface. So this is what I said. And actually, I have a picture of Yugoslavia. And we're going to talk about these 2 slides, and then I'll show you the picture because, Yugoslavia might sound familiar to you, and for some of you, you're like, what even is that? It's because it's not around anymore. This happened after the Soviet Union fell. All of these territories that were connected or were one, they're going to be broken up. So, like we know, oh my gosh, Czechoslovakia, right? They're going to break up, and it's the Czech Republic and Slovakia, okay? So the same thing's going to happen in Yugoslavia. It doesn't exist anymore. It's a bunch of different other countries. So I'll show you a map and I'll show you a picture, and this is what I was talking about, is because now that they are not under the control of the Soviet Union, they're going to realize that, yeah, we don't want this religious group living in here, or we don't want this ethnic group living in here. We want it to be just pure this ethnicity or this nationality, right? Like, they want to break up and form their own countries. Some of them, not all of them, want to break up. There are certain, I guess if you were to look at it like the state, like the United States, if Ohio was like, yeah, we just want to be just our own country and it's just going to be the country of Ohio, well, everyone else would be like, no, don't do that. Like, can you please stay a part of the United States of America? So there's little different there's smaller territories within Yugoslavia, and some of them want to be free, and some of them are like, no, can we just stay Yugoslavia? Like, we have more power if we're together and larger. So again, I'll show you a map and it'll make sense. Feelings of nationalism. So you can have patriotism and pride in your country and all of that, but once it gets to a point where you're harming other people or, committing genocide, which we're going to talk about, that's not good. That is not good. Feelings of nationalism in Yugoslavia's republic grew as ethnic and religious tensions increased. Some republics declared independence. Serbia, you should remember Serbia from World War I. Really, them fighting for their independence, and here they are still trying to find some sort of, I guess, agreement to how they live. Let's all figure this out and live peacefully. They're still trying to do that, even into the 1980s here. Eventually in 1991. Serbia, the ethnic Serbs living in other republics, tried to prevent the breakup of Yugoslavia, and conflict broke out in several republics. So like I said, there are certain areas where they're like, no, I don't want to declare independence. I just want to stay Yugoslavia. And we have a lot of power like this, right? Like, let's just stay together. There's no point in us declaring our independence. But then there are other territories within Yugoslavia that are like, no, I want to be independent. I don't want to be a part of Yugoslavia. I want my own people in my own country. I don't want this. So there's a lot of conflicts that have come from the Soviet Union collapsing, which, it's what we've wanted and it's what we have, I guess, been waiting for really. And it didn't stand because it had a failed economic system, but a lot of, I guess, hidden or covered up tension and feelings were in these territories and in these satellite states this whole time. And so now that everything's just broken up, they're like, oh God, like, what do? We have to act quickly or we have to act now. This is our chance to do what we want. And not everyone's on the same page. So it's very messy. Ethnic cleansing. This is the next slide here. I also just want to say, like, ethnic cleansing is as nice as you can put it, a synonym for genocide. So this is like if the United Nations was like talking and they're talking to a country that's like committing a genocide, and they'd be like, hey, can you please stop your ethnic cleansing, instead of just outright saying like you're committing a genocide, right? Like, if you want to say it nicely, even though like it means the same thing. Ethnic cleansing. Really? This is like Turkey and Turkify. I want to Turkify the country. Not good. Not good. So ethnic cleansing. The most violent of these wars took place in the Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina. I have to say it faster as I can't say it. Bosnia and Herzegovina, which declared its independence from Yugoslavia in 1992. Many Bosnian Serbs wanted to remain part of Yugoslavia. Like we said, Serbia wanted to stay a part of Yugoslavia. And they began a war to prevent the Bosnian independence. During the war, Serbs used a policy of ethnic cleansing against Bosnian Muslims. So this whole time, like I said, we have religious tensions of like, hey, we don't want this religion living within our territory. And we also have ethnic tensions of like, I don't want this nationality or this ethnicity living in this area because it's mine. Religion and ethnicity. And there's a lot of disagreements on these areas. And again, like, this is something that we've talked about in class before. And it's really something that we in the United States don't face because we don't have like a mandated religion, and religion is a very big part of some people's lives, but it's not like a government run thing. And you practice religion if you want, you don't have to, whatever you choose. And so religion is a very big deal across the ocean for a lot of countries. A lot of these countries, it was based on and founded on and established on religion. So religion is just it's different in other countries for sure. And ethnicities. So here again, we don't really realize any of that, but like, you might know your ethnicity or like your ancestry.com or whatever. Like, that's really great, and you should know that stuff and you should pay attention to it. But really, when we look at other people, we're like, okay, we're all just American, and we are very protected and isolated here because we have an ocean blocking us off from other countries. Of course, we have like Mexico and Canada, but over in Europe, like, all of these countries they border each other, and people are just going to hop over borders, and some countries might not like that. Right? They just want to keep it to themselves, and nationalistic feelings can be very strong over in Europe. Ethnic cleansing is the elimination of an ethnic group from society through killing or forced immigration. That's That's a genocide. That's a genocide. This is a genocide. It's a genocide. Okay. After much bloodshed, a U.S.-led diplomatic effort finally ended the violence in Bosnia in 1945. So this has been going on since the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, and 1995. We have the United States finally ending the conflict to the best of their ability. It's not like they could be like, okay, guys, come on, focus up, end this. I mean, it's going to be very difficult. It's not like, I mean, they're going to be like, who's this guy coming in here trying to fix this, right? So 1995, this took some time for us to end this for sure. I mean, like, just like a war-torn situation. It's like a civil war, right? Like, and I'll show you the map again, like Yugoslavia, and within Yugoslavia itself, you have different little territories that are fighting for their independence or fighting to stay a part of Yugoslavia. So it's like a civil war, and it's just like a war-torn country, and this has been going on for years up until, I mean, really the 2000s. I mean, it's like things still aren't figured out. Soon after, another conflict began in the region. This time, fighting was located in Serbian province of Kosovo, where Serbs and ethnic Albanians fought over control of the area. In the spring of 1999, after peace negotiations had failed, NATO airplanes bombed Serbian targets to attempt to stop the conflict. NATO peacekeepers eventually took up positions in the region to help maintain order. Okay, so NATO's getting involved. NATO doesn't have it's kind of like the United Nations. There's no military. You just use like whatever countries like military you have or that wants to get involved. So we have peacekeepers who really don't have like any authority really whatsoever, but they're there to keep the peace. And they're trying to stop this civil war because like one side wants independence, one side wants to stay a part of Yugoslavia and make sure that everyone is one kind of country. Well, eventually, even though we have the peacekeepers and things, like these countries aren't just going to stay. It's like, okay, great. Peacekeepers come in here and they're telling us that we need to stop fighting. That's great, but I'm going to be independent. So actually, there are countries that became independent, and we know this already because Yugoslavia isn't something that we talk about. It doesn't exist. It is broken up into different territories. So they came in, stopped the fighting, but it was like, all right, that's really great. All you're doing is giving me the opportunity to become independent and get what I want. So they did that. You know, you can continue to be independent and do what you want because they can't fight because the peacekeepers are there. So I think this picture will really help kind of clarify it here. So this is 1991, and this is Yugoslavia. You can see all the little territories within Yugoslavia. This would be considered a satellite state, being a part of the Soviet Union. Also, I really like this picture right here down there because you can see like based on the map like where it's at. Okay. Then this 2006 we have the Yugoslavia is no more, and we have all those different countries that have declared independence or broken up. Really, even though they didn't want independence, they are. To an extent, they have to figure it out because Yugoslavia isn't there anymore to govern them. So they kind of were forced. If you didn't want independence, you were kind of forced into it. We have Slovenia, we have Croatia, we have Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have Serbia and Montenegro. You can see it's right next to, where is it? You see Hungary, right? And Romania. Italy's down there too. We have Macedonia. Kosovo is the territory that's within Serbia and Montenegro here, and it says at the very bottom that it is administered by the United Nations. So because of that conflict in 1999, and the peacekeepers went in there and NATO got involved and all of that, nobody knew what to do with it, right? So they are just kind of controlled by the United Nations in order to stop the conflict and stop the fighting. It's messy. So the Yugoslavia is, the Yugoslavic Federation is no more, and these territories have become independent to the best of their ability. It is still very much unstable, for sure. A lot of them are trying to figure out, how to have a strong and successful economy, of course, because you're forced to now. So that is it. Don't forget to answer your bell ringer question. It's the last one for the month of May. You did it. High five. Nice job. And don't forget to make your summary statements for those slides, and we're getting closer. Bye, guys.